You're tuned in to Ask the Master Auto Technician. Car questions? Get answers right now. Call 850-763-0555.
James Auto Center, we fix it right, guaranteed. Beep, 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 yeah!
Good morning. This is James Morris. It's Friday morning. I know you're sitting there going, Lord have mercy, we made it through the week. Yes, you did. You make it through the week. There's only one more working day till Saturday. You got the day, and then Sunday comes around, and you start it all over again next week. But anyway, I've got Rob Lapham. He's going to be running for Congressional District 2 for the U.S. Senate. And it's the Congressional District 2 goes from Bay County all the way down to Ocala. I
thought he was running for the Florida House.
No, you're not running for the House, are you, Rob?
You bet. If it was the Senate, it'd be the whole state.
Oh, I'm not talking about the Senate. You're talking about the Congressional Congress. Is that what you're talking about? U.S. Congress?
Right. U.S. House.
Right.
Congressional District.
Right. Were you wanting to go to Washington to represent Congressional District 2? Correct.
That is correct.
Good.
Although I don't know you'll be able to fix my car if I'm in Washington. But still, I need to do that.
Yeah, disclosure here. Rob is also one of my customers, and also I am his treasurer for his campaign. So now I want to let everybody know I'm a little partial to Rob because he's also running as a libertarian. So, Rob, you got the floor. Tell us why you need to run for Congress and to defeat the incumbent who's running, which is Gwen Graham, and why they need to take you to Congress and to Washington instead of these other status quo people.
Sure, James. The basic reason is the voters don't have a choice. They have not had a choice for years. Congresswoman Graham stands for big government. She's a Democrat. I know she portrays on her website that she says it's her slogan, I'm an independent voice for North Florida. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, she happily blogs on her Facebook that she's excited to have early voted for Hillary Clinton. There's no question in my mind that she's a Democrat. That's on the one side. On the other side, you have three folks who are competing for the Republican nomination, and we won't know who they are until the August 30th primary election. But whichever one of them it is, again, Republicans are for big government. They won't grow the government quite as fast as the Democrats, but they're still going to do it. Mm-hmm. In fact, the last administration that had a balanced budget goes back to 1928. And since then, starting with Herbert Hoover right through the present, all 14 presidents, and whether the presidency was Republican or Democrat, or the Congress was Republican or Democrat, our national debt has gone up consistently. Mm-hmm. Nobody ever cuts the budget. They talk about it. They really talk about cutting the rate of increase. So we've gone from $17 billion in 1928 to $19 trillion today. Every single one of us, if we apportion it among all the citizens of the United States, we each owe our share of it is $59,000 a person.
Wow.
It's terrible.
It is.
You don't have that option with the major party candidate. And so that is a core reason. There are many other reasons, but that's a core reason why I'm running.
Now, Calvin Coolidge is who you're talking about. That was the last, is that who was the last person that actually had a balanced budget? And actually,
that is true. He is the last president who balanced the budget, period. But again, I don't want to focus so much on the president, who is a part of the problem, but I want to tell you that whether the Congress was Republican or Democrat, they always voted to spend money they didn't have. They always voted for an increase of our national debt. Mm-hmm. And opponents for that position will say, oh, no, in 1996 or some particular period, we had a surplus that year. Mm-hmm. There are a few of those surpluses around, but they are overshadowed by the massive larger debt before and the year before and the year after.
True.
So when you take it over an entire presidential administration, Congress always spent more money than it brought in. It didn't matter whether the Republicans or the Democrats were in power. They demonstrated it for 88 years. They're going to keep doing it. I'm offering an alternative to the voter.
Well, and that's something that's very, very interesting how we're actually going down the road, the path to self-destruction. One party's going at 100 miles an hour. The other party's going about 95 miles an hour. Both of them end in destruction of the American way of life. because you cannot spend your way to prosperity, contrary to what our vice president said. There's just no way you can get free if you're going to continue to go into debt. There's two ways to enslave a nation, one by the sword and one by debt. I think Samuel Adams said that, and he made pretty good beer as well. But the point I'm trying to get across is you're going to be a voice for reason, I understand. Now, like I said, I'm your treasurer, so I understand where you're coming from. You're trying to make sure that people understand that you're actually trying to lower our deficit. Is that one of your main concerns?
Sure, and some folks are not necessarily familiar with the deficit versus debt, and I don't think we necessarily need to get into this. I would, a simple way of saying is I'm going to introduce legislation or co-sponsor legislation to cut the budget, to cut the amount which is allocated. We have 15 federal level, that is cabinet level departments.
Right.
And for anybody who says, well, how are you going to cut this particular, how are you going to cut defense? How are you going to cut agriculture? How are you going to cut education? How are you going to cut labor? How are you going to cut the justice? You name it. I know where I would initiate legislation to cut those expenses because the other way to balance the budget is, of course, to raise taxes. Well, our taxes are too high already.
Right. I went to I went to my Rotary Club meeting yesterday, and I had the chamber was talking, and they were talking about, yes, how we've got this bed tax, and with this right here, this tax. And I kind of looked at it, was all said and done. I said, ma'am, is there a tax the Chamber of Commerce doesn't like? And she said, well, we need this to grow. And I said, taxing normally doesn't, it's another form of theft. And she looked at me like, I don't believe that's true. We're in a, what we should call it, we have a social contract. And I said, well, stealing from one person to give to another, as far as I'm concerned, is theft. But you can call it whatever you want to call it. But that social contract means that you try to live within your means and not steal from other people. And that's one of the libertarian principles, is a non-aggression principle, if I'm not mistaken here, where we don't want to do harm to others. Now, we're not going to be harassed and beat up or anything, of course. Not we want to defend ourselves, but it's just to the point, it seems like every time I turn around, someone got their hand out demanding more taxes, more regulation, and I think you could do a better job than what we've had. Because have you seen anything in our congressional district where they've actually repealed any of the laws they've put on the books in the last 100 years? I don't.
James, I have been searching. I have not found a single law that Congressman Graham has been involved in repealing.
Yes.
I would like to comment on your Chamber of Commerce reference, if I can.
Sure, please.
And frankly, stand up for the Chamber, because in terms of talking about a bed tax,
right.
So the people who are paying the bed tax have come in from outside Bay County. They have come to, for example, enjoy the beach or whatever reason they're there. And they are using local roads, and their trash is picked up locally, and they're consuming resources in Panama City and surrounding areas. And I think it's fair that some tax relief be afforded to the local citizen. In any case, it's more of a local issue, and frankly, I favor virtually all taxation issues be settled at the local level wherever possible, because people have an opportunity to weigh in so their voice is heard. Now, I must say, none of this has to do with running for Congress.
No, it doesn't.
All of my issues are federal, and I'm not an expert on local or state issues, and so that's why I'm really focused on federal issues.
Well, now, we got a few minutes left here. The congressional district lines have been redrawn, and I think I mentioned before you came on that it goes from Western Bay County all the way down to the Ocala city limits. Is that how far it goes down to?
Yeah, it is the largest congressional district in the state of Florida. Bay County, the Western Bay County line is the western line of the district. It goes north. It used to include all of Holmes County. Now it's just the eastern part of Holmes County, including Bonifay and the surrounding area. And it goes east through Tallahassee, a part of Tallahassee, all the way at the northeast part of the district to the counties where Live Oak and Lake City, that's basically the northeastern quadrant, or northeastern corner, and then down through a part of Marion County, right up to the west city limit of Ocala.
Wow.
So
wow.
from my house in Fort St. Joe to drive there, that southeast quadrant, we're talking 5 hours, 300 miles.
Every bit of it, yeah.
It's going to be, I'm going to have to schedule very carefully campaign appearances, which frankly, you mentioned that you were at a Rotary Club meeting yesterday.
And we're going
to be asking folks for the opportunity to speak to service organizations like Rotary, Kiwanis, Lions, whatever they may be across the district as part of my plan to get the message out. So I'll be appreciative if your organization would decide to invite me at some early date.
Absolutely. And if people want to, if people do want to have you speak and want to see if there is a third option, because a lot of people, it seems to be this is a year of throw the bums out. Well, we always have that attitude, but it seems to be everyone are a little upset about the status quo. That's why Donald Trump's doing so well and Ted Cruz, because they say they're against the status. They're not part of the status quo. And we've got a lot of people saying, well, I can't vote for Trump because of this and vote for that. So a third-party option seems more viable than it's been in a long time, probably since 1859. It's the last time a third party did extremely well in the presidential race. We had Abraham Lincoln become a president in that time. But maybe we can see a third-party change. Maybe people can, change their attitude about which direction America is going. We cannot keep going in debt. We cannot keep spending and living beyond our means. I know people say, well, we're on not on a gold standard anymore, but our dollar has gotten worthless. I was reading the other day where a $100 bill, today's value, what was worth in 1969, $100 is now only worth $15. So, you don't have any, I got it backwards there. So there's no value. Our money's losing its value. So it's our monetary system. We're not backed up by anything but the faith in government. And our inflation rate's running around 2 to 3% per year, according to them. But I think it's a lot higher than that, where prices have quadrupled over the last 30 years. It's just unreal. What is your viewpoint on our monetary system out there? Because that is federal.
Well, it's very interesting. I've read other statistics which state that a dollar in 1910 is worth 4 cents today.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm looking at a different study, but we're both seeing the same effective result. And as far as the cost of living and the CP, the Consumer Product Index, the government, and it's in government reports, they justify changing the basket of food upon which these statistics are derived. So, for example, 1 pound of steak and has a certain value. Say, it's $10, mm-hmm. But the steak that was used for the basket in a prior period, I'll just say 10 years ago, mm-hmm. is Delmonico high-end steak.
Right.
And the pound of steak today in that same basket is chuck roast or some much cheaper steak. So the Department of Labor is able to present the false scenario that there is no inflation. That enables the Social Security Administration to tell all of our seniors, as they did a couple of months ago, sorry, no increase in your Social Security check in 2016 because there has been no inflation. Well, bullshit. You go to the, excuse my French, but you go to the market and you know darn well that you're paying more for some items. So the federal government changes the rules to suit its interests. It's no different than, for example, the unemployment rate, which is, again, they've changed the rules upon which they come up with the percentages. So if you look at their percentages, you sell unemployment's great, it's under 5%, terrific.
Rob, how can people? We got to wrap this up. We're getting the clock here. What is your email address where people can contact you and volunteer and send money? And I know they can send money to me, your campaign here at James Auto Center, because I'm your treasurer. But is there any other way they can get up with you if they want to have you come speak?
Absolutely. I have a website, and there's a donate page on there. The website is Rob for Congress. That's all in English. ROBFORCONGRESS. RobForCongress.org.
That's pretty good. That's wonderful.
That's the website. I'd be delighted if folks would get the website. Or, frankly, feel free to give me a call, James, 850-340-3364.
All right. Thank you so much for calling us. Rob Lapham for Congress. That's how you get up with him, robforcongress.org. And we'll be right back. We're going to talk a little bit about cars.
James Auto Center, we fix it right.